What's up guys, my name is Wouters. I am the team rider for Caliber Trucks, Blood Orange Wheels, CROWNBOARDS and many others. And today I will be starting a series called Learning How to Longboard. Today we're gonna start with the very basics. So we're gonna talk about pushing, braking, all that kind of stuff. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright, and the first thing we're gonna talk about today is your stance. So in general there are two kinds of skaters. The ones with their left foot forward, those are called regular. When you put your right foot forward, that's called goofy. So how do you know what foot you should put in front of you? I always tell people to walk and just slip on a slippery surface, or try it with your socks at home or something. And the foot you put in front of you then will be your front foot, and the other foot will of course be your back foot. So now that we know what our stance is, there are three other things we need to talk about. That's riding switch, riding fakie, and riding nollie. Right, and the first thing is the switch position. So the switch position is really clearly just when you're switching to the other stance. So when you're normally goofy, you go to the regular, you're now riding switch. If you're normally regular, you go to goofy, now you're riding switch too. So that's pretty clear, just riding switch. And the second thing is the nollie position. The nollie position is when you stand in your normal stance and you just move to your nose. So without making 180 or something, just moving your feet to your nose, now you are in fact standing in a nollie position. And then the fakie position as the last position is when you stand in your normal stance, you make 180, and then you go to your nose. So for some people, the fakie position is easier to learn tricks like pivots and shove-its. For me, it was way easier to learn fakie. For some people, it's easier to learn them in nollie position. That's something completely personal. So if you see a trick tip and they're teaching it in fakie and you're like, oh, but it's easier nollie for me, just do it nollie. It doesn't matter at all what stance you do the tricks, especially in the beginning. So yeah, those are the stances. Let's go to the second one. Alright, so now that we know our stance, it's time to ride our longboards. So the first thing we need to learn is how to push. So the pushing is just you getting off and getting some speed. And of course, it's really important that you know how to do this. So some tips on it. Pushing is pretty much like walking, but you just set one foot on the board. So you can practice it by just walking up to your board, setting one foot on it, your front foot of course. Some people will put their back foot on the board and push with their front foot. That's called Mongo. Yeah, it's kind of like, I really suggest you learning how to do it with your front foot on the board. It doesn't really matter that much, but you will probably thank me if you learn it that way. Just trust me on that one. So, you just walk up to your board, you set your front foot on the front of your board, you go to your knee, you set your back foot on the ground, and you just take off, just like that. You've just pushed. And now you can put your back foot back on the board and you put it perpendicular with the length of the board so that you're more stable. And then after that, the next step and the last step is shifting your front foot 90 degrees too, so that you're now with 2 feet perpendicular to the length of the board and you're very stable to go carve and just to cruise on the longboard, because that is the most stable position that you can do on longboards. And then to push again, you just do the reverse movement. So you put your front foot parallel with the length of the board again, go to your knee again. Maybe you want to check if you are stable first, so you want to check if you can stand on the front foot alone. When you are balanced, then just go to your knee again, set your back foot on the ground, push, and just do it all over again. And yeah, woohoo man, now you're skating. And by the way, this will be very weird at first, but as you do it a lot, this will become second nature and you won't have to think about it anymore, so that's really fun. And then next up, we're gonna talk about carving. So carving, or a carve, is to make turns. So this is for me the most fun part of longboarding. This kind of like separates it from skating for me, because it's that surfy feeling you get when you're carving. So in general, you just stand with your 2 feet perpendicular to the length of the board, and then you try playing with your body weight. If you put your body weight to the front of your board, to your toe side edge, then you will make a toe side carve. If you do it to the heel side, you'll make a heel side carve, of course. You want to go through your knees though, because this will make you more stable on the board. And yeah, just like that, you can carve. If you reach this point, now you're able to cruise on your longboard, just have fun. And I think it's really important that you don't rush into trying tricks and you take your time to just get used to the board. Me personally, at first I was always just cruising around my neighborhood on my longboard, never doing tricks, just cruising around. And like that you get really comfortable with the board, even though it might feel like, oh, I want to do tricks. If that's your mindset, well, then this part is still very important. If you don't take your time to cruise around and get used to it, then learning tricks will be very, very difficult. So just have fun on the board, cruise around, because yeah, that's a lot of fun too. And then next up, we are talking about braking. Because now that we know how to ride a longboard, it is still important though that you know how to brake with your longboard too. So there are a couple of ways you can brake, you can stop. Some are easier than others, some are cooler than others, of course. I'm gonna talk about some basic ones. So first off is the foot brake. This is probably the main thing you are using to brake on your longboard when you're starting. Even me, I still do it all the time because it's just so easy, it's so effortless, and it's just convenient. So to foot brake, it's kind of like pushing actually, but now you're losing speed instead of gaining speed. So we're doing the same thing though. If we are standing perpendicular, you put your front foot parallel with the length of the board. Then you go to your front knee. First off, now it's really important, you test if you are stable. So for foot braking, it's even more important than with pushing, because for foot braking, you're probably going at some speed. You already have speed, so you want to be balanced when you do this. Me, I've had to learn this the hard way. This was actually one of my biggest road rashes when I was going down a hill. I went to foot brake because I was going too fast and I couldn't stop anymore. So I went to foot brake, but I wasn't stable on the board. My board went the right way, I went straight, and I just dove right into the asphalt. So yeah, just test whether you are stable first before you actually put your back foot off the board. But yeah, now that we know that we're stable, we can put our back foot off, and you just put it with your heel first on the asphalt and then go down. You don't want to go with your toes first, because then you might get stuck behind something. So the heels first. Another tip to make your shoes last longer is just to use different parts of your shoe. So don't always use the same spot of your shoe. And yeah, that's the foot braking. The second way to stop on your board is just jumping off. And this might sound silly, but it's actually very important because it's the fastest way to stop on your longboard. And for me, it's like an emergency stop. When I'm riding in a city or something, all of a sudden there's a biker in front of me, I might just have to jump off my board because you can't foot brake or slide or anything fast enough to avoid crashing into each other. And you want to kind of practice it, because if you've never practiced jumping off your board, then you might do it in a wrong way. So me, I just jump to the front of the board while pushing the board backwards. It's kind of like just running off the board. You generally don't want to jump to the back or the side of the board, because then you're not sure where the board is going, and that can give some really unexpected slams on the ground. So it's not something you want to do. Alright, and then key point number 5, and that's riding switch. So although this might sound like something you don't want to do, there are a lot of advantages to it, because being able to push switch is such a big advantage. If you learn it from the start, you will be very happy later on, because you can just make pushing 50% less exhausting. And that is such an advantage if you have to push a long way or something. Also, just being comfortable in the switch position is also very important if you want to do tricks, etc. Because the more comfortable you are on your longboards, the easier it will be to learn tricks, and especially to learn steps. A lot of tricks require you to land in a switch position or something. So if you're not comfortable in that position, that will really suck. So I just oblige myself sometimes to skate home from this spot, skate home switch all the way, just obliging yourself. You have to push switch now. And yeah, like that you will get used to it too. just like you can get used to just normal pushing, and you'll be very happy when you can. Alright, and then the sixth point and the last point is how to go fakie. Because the fakie stance is a very fun stance in my opinion. At the beginning I learned a lot of fake tricks like the pivots and the shove-its. I always did them fakie because you use the same foot on the nose as you would normally use on. It's kind of like the same thing as your normal stance, but just on the nose. So you need to make that 180, but there are a lot of ways to do that. I'm gonna quickly talk about a couple of them. So the first way is the easiest way, I think, and it's just pushing a different way. So you push with your front foot on the front of the board now, so that you can just push. And when you step on the board, you immediately step on the board in the switch position. So you can just shift through your nose, and now you're riding fakie, and it was really easy to do it like that. Secondly, you can do a little 180 jump. So just make a little jump, wind up your shoulders a bit, and just whoop, make that jump. And then when you're riding switch, you just go to your nose and you're riding fakie, and it's just like that. Third way is doing a 180 step. This is a step I will be talking about in detail in 2 videos after this one. So the 180 step is one of the very basic dancing steps. It's one of the fundamental dancing steps. And it's one that's really fun to use if you want to go to fakie. So really quickly, you just put your front foot on the side of the board, and then you make a 180 with your body. So the 180 step, hence the name of the trick. And then the last thing I sometimes see people doing, it's also very fun when you're beginning. It's kind of like that jump to 180, but now you're standing on your front foot and you're doing a little pirouette to the fakie position. So your front foot stays on the board. Yeah, I think it's really fun to do that. I think I would love doing this one when I was starting to longboard. So yeah, that's how to go to fakie, man. And that's a wrap up for this video. If you want more tips, you can check out my other tip videos I already made. And yeah, really subscribe right here if you're interested in new videos coming up. As always, big hugs from Belgium right here. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao.